Hello and welcome back to our tutorial series in Word 2016. So in the last tutorial we used a quick template from Starting Word to create a very short letter style that you see on the screen at the moment. So we're going to continue on from that, but to do so we are going to create a letter from scratch, just with some random text, but by doing so we're going to go through some of the layout options and some of the text formatting options, so you can start to get a feel for how some of those things work. So first thing we need to do is start a new document, because this one is effectively done as far as we need it. So I'm just going to go to File. I'm going to click New. And then this time, rather than clicking one of the templates like we did in the last tutorial, I'm going to click on Blank Document. And there we go. So this starts a new document for us, completely blank, no formatting on it other than the standard default stuff. So much like doing a letter like you might have done in days of yore with a typewriter or other word processing programs, we're just going to start by typing our address. So I'm just going to type 32 Anywhere Street, Oxford, OX1 4RT. I'm making this up. Of course, there is no Anywhere Street. I'm going to put a date in. 02 November 2015, and we need a destination address, 457 Somewhere Avenue, Sometown, SD45. Doesn't matter what I'm typing here, I'm just creating some content. The next thing I want to do is drop some text in here, and a quick way for me to do that, there's a little hidden technique in Word which, whilst you're following along with these, you may find quite useful, just to fill in some filler text rather than having actually type some text of your own. Equals lorem, open brackets, I want 3 paragraphs and 5 sentences. Scripted those for me, and then yours sincerely, Mr. Trainer. There we go. And we've got the base of the letter. Oh, we've forgotten the dear sir. There we go. So now we have the basics of our letter, but it doesn't look right. So the next thing we need to do is actually turn this into the layout you'd expect in a normally written letter. So what we do first of all is we're going to just drag and select over the address here. Now there's 2 ways I can do that. I can literally take my cursor, place it at the beginning, then click and hold down and drag over. I can do it from the end. I can do it that way. Or I can actually use my cursor key, so I can click there, hold down Shift and press my down arrow 4 times. Similarly, I can do that from the end. I can hold down Shift and use the up arrow just to select my text. Now what I want to do is move it over to the right hand side of the page, and to do that we need right hand justification, which is this icon just here, or sorry, right alignment. So all I'm going to do is click that and it moves it over. I also want the date over there. I'm going to select that and move it over, and I want a space there and add in some carriage returns here. Make it look a bit better. There we go. So now we have the basis of our letter, but our spacing between some of these components isn't quite right. So I'm going to select all of the text again, because I want it all to be the same. Just right click anywhere in that selected text. So let me just run through that again. Double click to come off it. I'm going to drag over all of this, right click, choose paragraph. We've got spacing here, and after multiple 1.8. I don't want this 1.8. I just want this single. And that brings it much better back to what I want. So now we have our letter actually written, and you could print that out, save it, do it how you want to do with it. But let's say I want to change the look and feel of this a bit more. Before we go any further, you'll see Word has highlighted the word here in with a red squiggly line. I'm going to zoom in a bit. There we go. And this is Word letting you know that with the language you've selected, it doesn't recognize this word. It's saying basically there was a spelling error. Now, we know there's no such place as Sumtown, so what I'm going to do in this case is select it with a double click. I'm going to right click. No, you're not going to do that. I'm going to right click it. You see them stay. So if you double click a word to change a spelling option, the options aren't there. It's all formatting stuff. You just need to right click the word. See, we're all learning sometimes. And I can choose add to dictionary, but I don't really want to add a non-word into my dictionary. So I'm just going to choose ignore all. And you can see what Word is also doing is it's giving me some other suggestions here, which we could choose, and it will automatically change to those words if I want to. But I don't want those. I'm going to choose ignore all. So it knows it's going to ignore any instance of the word Sumtown now, but only in this document. Okay, let me zoom out a bit more. I'm going to look at my text here. So I want to change the text here to be in a different font. So another way of selecting all the text in the document, other than dragging your cursor all the way across it, is just to press the Control key and press A. This, you can be sure, then selects everything. I can go up here and I can choose my other fonts. Now, as I just move my mouse over these other options, it gives you a live preview on the document what it will look like, in addition to what the font itself looks like in the menu. And there's many to choose from, as you can see here. So I'm going to go for Jill Sans MT, because I think it looks a bit more modern. There we go. And let's say in my fake letter here I want to emphasize something to the recipient. So I'm going to now drag and select over this sentence. And I'm not going to click the B symbol up here to make bold. Now, another handy thing in Word is when you put your mouse cursor over one of these options, it does tell you if there is, well, first of all, it tells you what that button does with a small description. And if there is one, it tells you what the hotkey is, the key combination to get that without having to use your mouse. So if I click on here, it's now made that text bold. If I do Control Z to undo that, it turns back, just to highlight again. If I do Control B, that does the same thing. I'm now going to save this. As my second example letter. Let's save that. Okay. And there we go. Now we've quickly put together our own from scratch letter, formatted it how we wanted it to, and we're ready to go. In terms of other formatting options, I could also choose to underline some text. So instead of bolding this important statement I'm making here, if I unbold that with a Control B again, so similar to the bold function, I can use underline. I can do that with clicking the button or by Controlling U. Alternatively, I can make the text italicized by slanting it over, and that's with this symbol here, the uppercase I. And in the very same similar fashion, I can click that, undo and redo it, or I can do Control and I to cycle between those two there. But you know what? I'm going to leave it bold because I think in this case that's the point I'm trying to make. Now, traditionally, letters like this will all be done in black text on a white page, and there's no real reason to change that. But for the purpose of this tutorial, we're going to look at some other formatting options. So let's say I actually wanted my text in a different color. So I'm going to select all again by doing Control A. I'm going to this icon here with the red underscore. This is the font color. I can click on this little down arrow, and I get a choice of all the different standard colors. Now you'll see, much like when I was choosing a font, it gives me a live preview of what that font would look like. I would never recommend using yellow on white paper, but that blue is quite nice. We could use that blue, and you can see there are different shades here of some standard kind of colors, and you've got some more bolder colors here. But if I want, I can click on more colors, and I get a bigger palette here that I can choose from. And even further, I can click on custom, and I can drag my mouse over to get any shade of any color I could reasonably actually want to use. I'm going to click cancel there to drop this down. And I'm going to choose that blue because that's quite nice. Now, other formatting options that you might want to do, probably not for the purpose of sending a letter, but in the interest of doing this tutorial, there are some other options here. So let's say this was another important statement I wanted to make. This is the highlighting option here. If I click on that, by default it will turn it into a yellow highlight, and this will actually get printed as such. But if I select that again and click the little triangle option to the side, you can see I can highlight in these other colours. Blue's probably not great, red's probably not great, yellow's probably the best choice with this colour of text, but you can see you can pick other ones if you really, really wanted to. Again, with that live preview working for you, but I'm going to stick with yellow. So I'll just do that again. There we go. Now, another thing we want to do is change the size of the text. So by default, it's dropped into 0.11 size text. But again, I can do Control A, and I can choose a slightly larger font. And as I mouse over, it gives me a live preview of what that looks like. Obviously, we're getting too big here, but some prefer slightly larger fonts for their letters, some like quite small. Again, you might want to do only a one page, but you've got lots to say, so you might want to shrink it down a little bit. I'm going to go with font 12. There we go. And now I'm just going to zoom out again slightly so we can see the whole document. There we go. There. Now another way, of course, we can change that font size is we can use these options here. So rather than looking at the different sizes here, what I can do is choose just to go up through the steps, or back down again with those up and down font size arrows. Or indeed, what I can do is I can click in this box where the font size is mentioned and actually type the size I want. So let's say I want 13. It will do that. And this is an important point. Just because the number isn't in there doesn't mean you cannot do it. In fact, I can drag this down further here. Actually, that does nothing. By default, this goes up to 72, which is, of course, ridiculous. I put that back to 12. But I can type 15 and press return, and it will do point size 15. You can also do, if you click in there, point sizes, pardon the pun, so I can do 12.5, and it will give me that size as well. But I'm going to put this back to 12. There we go. Now, the next thing you might want to do is you've played with your document and you've got some formatting the way you want it, and you've gone into quite some serious formatting antics to get it just how the way you want your document to look and feel, but you want to repeat a bunch of formatting from one place to another. So let's take our example here where we've got something. Let's make this bold as well as highlighted, and we're going to make it italicized, and we're going to make it underlined. So very, very emphasized there. And that's fine, but let's say we wanted to do that formatting on here, but we didn't know exactly what all the format options were turned on. We can't be sure that it's just highlighted and bold and underlined and italicized. There could be other formatting on here. So what we can do is take all the formatting from that piece of text and apply it to this piece of text, or anywhere else you want. So I'm going to select this text again, and over on the left hand side I'm going to choose Format Painter and click it. Now what it will do, where I drag this new cursor over, you can see the cursor's changed. Let me zoom in. You can see the cursor's changed to a little paintbrush. Wherever I drop that, it will drop all the formatting from this highlighted bit here to wherever I drop. So if I now highlight this section here and then let go of my mouse, it applies them all. So there we can see we've got some extra emphasized bits to our letter now. Okay, and I think that reaches the end of this tutorial, which I hope was useful to you. In the next, we're going to get on and moving to some more automated ways of formatting our document. So we'll see you